Everybody, welcome back to Pool Pals. I don't know why I started with the word everybody. Seems like the worst word. Welcome back, everybody, to Pool Pals. You got me, Monk, down here at the bottom of the screen, up in the opposite direction of where I just pointed. If you're watching, that is Mark. And say hi to the people at home, Mark.
Hi, people at home.
And that was great. That was good.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if you noticed this or not. Again, this is just for the people watching, not just for the people listening, but we have a new pal amongst us. And it is a great personal pal of mine, Anthony Blackwell Jr., or as we like to call him, Tony.
Or I go by many names. Daddy, the goat, the great. No, I'm joking. Hey everyone. Thanks for having me.
Wow.
I'm very excited to be on the show.
Well, thank you. We're very happy to have you. Anthony is the host of a bunch of podcasts, a bunch that are wrapping up, unfortunately, but he is also the founder of the IWEP Network, which has been so kind to let us use their platform and even the StreamYard that we use to stream across everything. It's all because of that man's generosity right there. So
you can still have the StreamYard even though it's over.
Well, I mean, if you're going to pay for it, that's great.
Yeah.
Why not?
I'm still.
No, I'm not going to make you do that. Anyways, then we don't have to talk about the behind baseball stuff. Mark, you want to just get right into our pools, and then we can.
Let's get into it so we can talk with Mr. ABJ over here. That's what I'm going to call you.
Everybody hearts say ABJ.
ABJ.
Everybody.
All right. Well,
ABJ.
ABJ. All right, how many did I tell you I had? I think I had said 6. I actually have 7. So I'll get through these pretty quick. I got one from a Blaze Publishing. I haven't gotten one from a Blaze for a while.
I don't know if I ever have.
I think the last thing I got from them was the I always fuck up the word. It's for Conan the Barbarian.
Okay,
but they did like the comic books based on like the actual story, and it was really well done. And then Ablaze is actually I found up from my neck of the woods, which I did not know until I got this new one. But I got Boogeyman or the Boogeyman.
Okay.
I know nothing about the artist or the writer. The writer is Matthew Salvia, and the artist is just Jet, but with a D in front.
Nice.
Like, I don't know if you can see it on like the Jet, but I'm guessing it's pronounced Jet.
Yeah.
I mostly grabbed this one because I really like the cover. And I've been getting really into horror lately, but it's just, the classic. There's the kid, he's under his bed's floating up in the air, his teddy bear is hanging out right there. But yeah, so I'll probably talk about that one next week. Then I got one from DC.
It's the same one that it's not the same one that I got.
I didn't, because I never told my shop to subscribe me to the new Batman series, or at least the Darsky's run. And so I keep forgetting to go to the shelf. So I'll get back there this weekend and grab that. But yeah, Sword of Azrael number 2. This character here on the cover, I forgot her name because I'm not super familiar with her. And I don't know, Anthony, if you've listened, but Tim and I have been pretty harsh on DC since we started this podcast.
Oh, that's my bread and butter.
Well, it's just more like,
oh no, what have we done? We're gonna lose our jobs.
Batman's always been like one of my favorite comic book characters ever. But when the new 52 started like 10 years ago, like that's when I tried to get back into comic books again after like a hiatus of a few years, and I was just super disappointed by the new 52.
See, I loved the new 52. New 52 got me back into comics. The Batman run was probably my favorite.
Well, and that's the only run I enjoyed was like just the main Batman run. I had a ton of other ones. I also did Superman, and Superman was
Rebirth was pretty good too.
Yeah. But yeah, Sword of Azrael. So Azrael originates from Nightfall, the series. I think that was like back in the 90s, and I like read the novelization of it and really love that. So I'm excited to get into that one.
Now, I'm not trying to take up too much time, but just with that comic, is that like a continuation after Nightfall? Like, is there like a what if scenario here?
Yeah. So I think it's more of a what if scenario, to be honest with you.
It's so hard to tell with DC because their continuity is just
all over the place,
and they never really explain like where the continuity is coming from.
Yeah. So this one is kind of like he just never gets back the mantle.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And so the main antagonist in this, though, is I forgot to mention, this is Bane's daughter. And I
say it
forgot.
looks very Bane-ish.
Yeah. And then I got 3 from Dark Horse, which is pretty rare that I get this many from Dark Horse. A new one, which I'm excited about, called Shock Shop. This is written by Colin Bunn. Have you ever gotten into like Harrow County or Parasomnia? Yeah, he's the writer behind those. He also did a lot of Deadpool for Marvel. He's done a lot of like Green Lantern and Sinestro stuff for DC as well. I got issue 2 of Survival Street, which this one I really enjoyed the first issue. It's just kind of like, I don't know, a Muppet apocalypse situation.
I love that.
Yeah. And that
premise.
And then that one's
a podcast. It's like it talks about cryptozoology and like cryptids. And there's people who around the world have reported like puppet people coming from their closets and talking.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like a legit thing. So maybe
now I'm scared that this closet door behind me is going to open and like it's going to be one of those movies where like a puppet.
So, are you saying Survival Street might be based on a true story?
It might be
it might
reality
be.
there.
But yeah, so that one's written by James Asmus. It might be Asmus.
It's a cooler name.
It's co-written by Jim Festante, and the artist is, man, these people, comic book writers and creators have like the hardest names to say. I swear.
Yeah, it's never like Rick Johnny.
Yeah, Rick Johnson. Like, okay, the artist is Abele Kusanov. I think I got that right. I nailed it. And then the last one from Dark Horse is issue number 4 of The Ward. I finally got my issue 3, which came out like over a month ago now, I think.
Did you read it?
I did. I read it last night. So I'll read this one today.
Well, I take it you enjoyed it enough to get issue number 4?
Well, I mean, it was in my box. So
okay. There you go.
I don't want to tell them now. But yeah, I'm excited about this one because this guy here was kind of revealed in the last one. Which Tim, you read it, didn't you? Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And I just a quick shout out to our buddy Ethan. He's watching it in our locker room that we share at work. Thanks, buddy. I'm sorry you're at work so late. Go home, enjoy yourself. Listen to us while you're driving. Put your buds in. It's safe. I'm just kidding. Don't do that. But yeah, I mean, I read it and I don't know. I think I don't like the narrative styles of how it's written. I mean, I guess that feels like it's it was that with that spring.
Yeah, sorry.
It's all good. No, but yeah, it just was. Is the Muppet person behind me?
Yep. Watch out.
No. God, what if there was though? But yeah, I don't know. I don't like the storytelling. It just seems like it's too dramatic to be like, it's trying to be like ER, but like with a bunch of I mean, Anthony, I guess you don't know, so we'll explain the premise real quick, but it's essentially set in a mystical hospital where like all creatures who get ill, they go to this place, and the main protagonist is, she was away from the hospital for some time and came back to.
Did you say hospital, like a mental hospital, or like a
like an emergency room hospital?
Oh, I just heard ward. I thought it was like
no, it's like the emergency ward. So she's like probably, I would assume she works in the trauma unit. I don't know if that was ever like explicitly said, but like she mostly just deals with people who are coming in. Like, I mean.
Well, and I will say one thing too about issue 3 is like in issue 1, there is this big kind of like hinge on what the main protagonist like background was, and that was kind of like why she like had left the hospital and she came back in issue 1, and there's all this mystery around like why she left, and it was revealed in issue 3, and it was that was the lamest part of issue 3 to me. It was like, man, that was it. I don't want to spoil anything for anybody, but it was just like there was so much like build up to that point, and then it was just such a letdown. But again, with the cover, which I don't know where I tossed it. The cover has a new yeah, it's just I was so over it. I'm not even gonna read issue 4.
Remind yourself.
I mean, I laugh, but I can't tell you how many comics I have that are issue number 4 that I'm just like,
yeah, no, it happens a lot. There's a lot. We've had an episode about dips before, and it's either issue 2, like a hard dip right in the start, or it's issue 4 is always a good dip. But as long as the ones before it were good, you might get lucky. And speaking of lucky, my next one is The Dead Lucky.
Nice.
So this is part of the Massive Verse.
Who's publishing that?
It is Image. So this is
Okay.
like Radiant Black is like the main like superhero in this universe.
Right.
They started this last year. I've only read like a bit of Radiant Black, and I think the reason I got into Dead Lucky is because I really like the cover of issue 1, which again, Anthony, we've had quite a few episodes talking about how Tim and I just get drawn in by the cover alone.
That's how I buy beer.
That right?
I mean, it's marketing, right, in that aspect, and it's really good art, which can be used as marketing, which is the same thing as, you know, like a Abraham Lincoln looking fellow surrounded by wheat.
Yeah,
I imagine that's many of them.
But yeah, you can only hope the cover delivers on the story inside, just like with the beer. The beer can looks good. You really hope that beer.
I hate when a cover has art and you're like, this art is awesome, and you're like, oh, that was only a variant, and then you open up and the art inside's awful or completely different than what you expected.
Yeah. And then last but not least, Star Wars 27 came out, and
that cover looks fantastic. I almost bought it just because of that.
Yeah, and this is The Good People. So this is the second issue for the new arc, I believe. And I actually don't think I've read the last one yet. I have a bunch of Star Wars ones queued up. The nice thing about Marvel is that you can just take that code, put it into your phone, and you can read it later, like when you're on the metro or whatever. So, because
I live in a different place of the world than we do. We don't have metros here, son. We got just your car and buggies in some places.
Well, by metro for me, I mean like if my wife ever decides to be the driver, that's when I get
It's about the only time we get it too.
That's funny.
So what do you got over there, buddy?
You know, I was trying to think of a fun way to start this, but I can't think of anything a good segue into it. So I'm just gonna say I feel like I was a really good comic book person this week at the comic shop. Well, I felt like I was good in one aspect and bad in another aspect. I feel like I don't buy enough comics, which is partly because I don't have enough money and like it's just hard to read like so many comics.
Yeah,
which is I'm just making an excuse. But also I felt like a good little comic boy because I got one from the main two, one from Marvel and one from DC, and also an indie comic. So I'm so well versed in my comic book shopping. It's amazing.
Way to go, man.
Thank you. I'm very proud of myself.
A good little comic shop boy is what you are.
Hashtag good little comic shop boy. That should somebody write that down. But I am super excited about this comic. This is issue number 2 of The Vineyard. Anthony, you'll probably like this story. This is by Brian Hotkins and Sammy Cavella. I believe it's a 4-issue story of this family who has this, I guess a vineyard, you would say, and they have a wine making place. What is that called? A winery. They run a winery, and every season they have to do a human sacrifice to this god of wine, and then that's how they have potent wine.
Love that.
Yeah. So I knew you would.
Real life, and you're like, this is the Anthony Blackwell wine. He gave his life so you can all get drunk this month.
Wouldn't that be great? I mean, wouldn't you want to?
Such an honor, and then like put me on the can.
But it's really cool. The art's really great, and like the spirit of the gods kind of gets personified in like, you know, either like weeds or the flowers of the stuff will like become a beautiful lady and like start like caressing the men. It's just really fun art and really fun concept.
Is the god Dionysus?
I think so. But I would have to.
That's the Greek god of wine, I believe.
I would, yeah. Then I believe that sounds right to me. But I would have to look into it. If you want to look into
I'm doing it right now.
There you go. But Anthony, if you would want to borrow this from me, you are more than welcome to. Oh, and it also says down here that Jason Wardy, I would assume, does lettering. So Jason Wardy is the colorist, and Taylor Espinito is the letterer. But yeah, like I said, really great art, super great concept. Yeah, so I would highly recommend checking that out. And now this next one here, I don't really know much about, but it says on the front the Avengers, but what it is the All Out Avengers, and this is issue number 1. And truth be told, the reason I got it was because one of my favorite comic book characters, Ant-Man, was on the cover.
Good cover.
And
it's a great cover.
It's very, I mean, it's just classic, good old. It's like it was a good week to feel like a comic book kid, is what I guess I'm trying to say. Because I got like this fun little comic that like I don't know what the story is. The All Out Avengers. I was actually talking to Andy Hedder at the comic book shop, so shout out to him. We were talking about this, and he was saying that there was something called All Out Spider-Man, I believe.
Yeah.
And so that apparently was less words and more just action focuses, and focused more on like the fighting and the all outness of it. But so we were theorizing, like, I wonder if that is what this is about. But I was looking through it, and it doesn't seem to be very wordless. It seems to be very word heavy. But
so there's a lot of boxes.
Yeah, and think bubbles and all that stuff. But hey, it's the Avengers. I mean, you're gonna get a decent story at worst,
Yeah.
If anything, it's just boring. But this probably won't be, because it's from Derek Landy, Greg Land. That's kind of interesting that they had Landy and Land. Jay Lysander as the inker, Frank DiArma as the colorist. Yeah, so gonna just get into that. I don't know if I'm gonna jump on it, or I guess we'll see how good it is. But Marvel is so good at just like hook, line, and sinker of like giving you really like 3 really strong issues, and then like a dip, and then you have to buy like a side story to figure out where the rest of the story goes, and then like you jump back in, and
that's why Marvel Unlimited is worth it.
Yeah. Oh my God, yeah. But something that you can't read on Marvel Unlimited, and Anthony, this one's for you, buddy. It is Batman 127.
Yeah.
And me and Mark here have been reading Batman, except he didn't get his thing this week.
By the way,
that's okay.
Blue and gray. Blue, the baby blue and the gray Batman is my favorite version of Batman.
Yeah, this is a toy from 1984.
Anytime I see blue and gray Batman, I try to buy it. That's like, I collect Batman stuff, but I try to keep it blue and gray.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Hey, that's Mark and I talk about like going back and reading old Batman comics. A couple, sometime I can't remember how far back it was.
It was about 2 months ago. You hopped on the storyline with oh my gosh, the word is escaping me. The guy with the puppet.
The ventriloquist.
Yes, that's
so. Yeah,
I wanted to say masquerader, and like that's not.
I almost did puppet master, knowing that definitely wasn't it.
Do you know about the ventriloquist, Anthony?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, I guess he's in the animated series, and yeah. So I got these comics of him. Like, it wasn't. I don't think it was his first appearance. I think it was a later appearance.
He ended up making Scarface puppet then, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's that dynamic is probably my favorite Batman villain. And so I was reading that, and I was just saying to Mark how I felt like, even though I wasn't, it was issue 180 something, and it was like I jumped in, and all the writing was good enough and appealing enough that I could know everything that was going on, like all the side stories, without feeling like overwhelmed, and like it was just a lot of fun. And I think that that's something that's kind of been missing from Batman for a while, is just like the fun aspect. But I also don't read Batman very often outside of this Chip Zdarsky comic that I've been reading.
Well,
and it's really enjoyable.
Didn't they just reveal the Joker's name?
They did. I read that. How do you feel about that?
No spoilers. Let's not spoil the name.
I didn't look it up. I'm gonna be honest. I didn't look it up. I just seen the article that they said they
looked it up, but I don't remember it.
Yeah. My favorite villain doesn't get a lot of play. My Batman favorite villain.
Who's that?
Yours?
I'm a Clayface guy.
Oh, dude, I love Clayface.
Yeah, they just put up. There's a figure of Clayface. It's like $40, and it's like massive. It looks so cool.
Without giving too much away, Tim, isn't the Zdarsky one? Isn't Clayface in it?
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
But I mean, Lord knows how much he's going to be in it. But shout out to Carl Bakley, our good friend, watching on the treadmill. He just said that he's also just read the new Alex Ross Fantastic Four book, and the art was amazing as to be just as expected. Definitely recommend. Dude, I love the Fantastic Four, and I definitely love Alex
Me too.
Ross.
Yeah.
I am really hoping. I mean, I jumped on the Fantastic Four a while ago, and it's always just a fun story because it seems so like, and forgive me for like being, I don't know, whatever, but it's very American. Like they're always kind of the Fantastic Four like is always like whatever America the family dynamic is.
It's like Leave It
usually
to
like,
Beaver, America.
yeah. Well, yeah, but I guess like I mean they have more like domestic problems, but I've also never watched Leave It to Beaver. So
I mean, Leave It to Beaver look like freshly cut grass, really pressure washed house, but inside the dad's pounding a bottle of something, smacking the wife around. You know what I mean? And that's what the Fantastic Four is. Like they look like Leave It to Beaver. Behind the doors, they just hate each other.
that's good.
Yeah.
That's true. They probably have like really good PR.
Yeah.
And then behind the scenes they're just like a mess. But I mean, isn't that every family? So like again,
No.
it's
Not
well,
mine.
yeah, I guess it's wow.
Nah.
But yeah, so Anthony, what take us back? What was the first comic that what got you into the idea of reading comics, and what would be like the first thing you ever remember picking up?
So I feel like I'm on the same boat as most nerds in life where the TV shows and the pop culture of video games and TV and movies get you into it to start off. Um, when I was younger, I grew up in Monte City and Shenandoah. If you know these little tiny coal region towns, we don't have newspaper stands or we don't have comic book places or stuff that you can get that. And that wasn't somewhere where my parents were going to actively go seek out to go buy me comic books. So I didn't start reading until much, 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 much later. But the first couple comics that I did gravitate towards was always Batman. Batman was the first one I always looked for. I always was drawn into every time I seen art. Like you would see the art of it, like on T-shirts or on like magazines and stuff. But I never was able to read the books. But Todd McFarlane art when he drew Spider-Man in the 90s and 2000s, like always, like man, I love the way Spider-Man looks. So that always drew me in. And
I would say, if you don't mind me, we'll definitely get into that. But before that, Todd McFarlane, I think, was probably the best thing. Todd McFarlane's Spider-Man was probably the best thing to come out of the 90s, maybe besides like Deadpool and the Deadpool art. I think Deadpool does really well in his like original stylings. I'm not a huge fan of Rob Liefeld, just in general, but I mean, you got to give the devil his due. He did draw a good looking character. But yeah, Todd McFarlane and that Spider-Man, I think, is just so classic. So sorry to cut you off there. And then what was the other 4-letter thing that you mentioned?
Ninja Turtles. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was another big one for me. Then I just remember as I got older, I was like, man, like Spider-Man looked cool. And the first time I seen Spawn, without even knowing who the artist was, I was like, I'm drawn into that too. And then realizing it's the same guy. So I've always been really driven into the art aspect of things and not so much what's in between the covers, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that's interesting because I would say that Mark and I are probably very story driven. Yeah, I think when we review things, we're very focused on like what was the story of this, and we've talked about this of being like we need to do better at like
and it's like art. I've mentioned quite a few times too, like my favorite series out right now is mainly told by just the art in the panels. Like you'll go pages without seeing a box of dialogue, and I like when a comic can use the art to tell the story versus having to fill every panel with so many dialogue boxes. Just it takes away from the story for me sometimes when you just get overwhelmed with having 4 or 5 in one panel. But I wanted to go back to Spawn. I like
don't we all just want to go back to Spawn? I've never consumed a Spawn anything.
Yeah, I wasn't allowed to as a kid.
Well, that would make sense.
My sweet mother would not let me and my brother pick up Spawn, but my neighbor down the road, like 4 houses down, he had like Spawn poster on his wall. He had like all the comics, and like that's how I got my fill of that character. And then you hit at the nose too, just Spider-Man, Batman, and Spawn. Like that's what represents the 90s comics to me, is those three characters.
Yeah. Well, and also, like, I was kind of not turned off from comics, but I didn't lean into it very heavy just because growing up, diagnosed with ADHD and ADD, where I can read a book in school, get 10 pages in, and not remember a thing I read 10 pages ago. So then when it was like, hey, you should read comics, I always just kind of, because of the school system of making you read out loud, and I wasn't a strong reader and I had a lot of issues, and my memory retention wasn't there, I'd get bored. I thought I wouldn't really adapt to comics. So I was kind of the person where I enjoyed drawing. So I would buy, if I got a comic, I'd buy it, and that's how I learned how to draw. Is I would like use the comic. This is probably like, oh my God, I would like trace, like I put the piece of paper on the comic and trace, ruin the book to all hell, and then learn how to draw after not tracing it. And that's kind of like, that was for me, that was comic books of most of my childhood. It wasn't so much reading them, it was just I was so drawn into the art and the characters. And then like, because I wasn't a very strong reader, I would actually look at the books and not so much make my own storyline up, but kind of piece together what I thought they were trying to get with by looking at the art panels. And then I didn't read for a very, very long time. And I just kind of stuck with the media, like the comic books. I mean, the TV shows, the movies, the video games, and then just hearing third hand of what was going on in books. Knowing major arcs, like people told me obviously about all the major events and stuff. But I got back into it with the New 52 and Rebirth. I loved Batman all the way up until the plant flower guy. Hated that.
What's a plant flower guy?
The villain, it was like a giant flower. It was dumb. Hated it.
That was part of the New 50. Yeah.
It wasn't Poison Ivy?
No, it was. I think he was called Mr. Bloom.
Was it?
I'll look it up.
Dude, like a really lanky dude, and he just had a dandelion for a head.
Mr. Bloom.
He was awful.
Was he a derivative of?
Oh yeah, there it is.
Yeah,
I remember seeing this cover, the one with Batman having dandelions pour out of his mouth.
Hate it. So they started off.
He looks
like,
very generic.
The Court of Owls, and the Court of Owls storyline to me,
dude,
one of the coolest things I've ever read in my life, and I want that to be translated into movies and video games. They said the new Batman game is going to be the Court of Owls. Fingers crossed, because that is such a cool, like, an Illuminati, and they're owls that hunt bats, and they know the Wayne family. Like, they were just such a cool story arc. And then it led, I believe, into year one, where it was like the origin of the Riddler and Batman's year one story, which was excellent. Then the death in the family, and then all these amazing New 52 arcs. And then we get this Mr. Bloom. Yeah. I stopped there. I picked up a little bit with the New 52 Rebirth, and then I just kind of fell off again. But I was doing digital.
Oh yeah, his face is a flower. You got to, okay, so if we're giving Devils his due, I would say that it's good. I'm happy that DC at least is trying to introduce new characters or new villains. And
that was all part of the New 52 though, as well as, like, I think that they got to a point of, we've been recycling the same Batman villains for decades now. Let's bring in some new ones. And I just don't know. I can't think of any villains that came out of the New 52 that really landed. Like, I mean,
maybe the Court of Owls, but
maybe Court of Owls again. Like, man,
100%.
like I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, I kind of forgot that was in the New 52, and like that storyline is just it. I have it sitting right here. I'm gonna my box of New 52.
The mask is so cool. You could buy the special box with the mask in it.
Yeah,
loved it.
Did you get the mask?
I didn't. I think I have to look upstairs, but I did buy the Joker one. Remember when the Joker finally cut his face off and wore it as a...
Oh yeah.
That came in a comic book box. I think I might have that one.
Whenever I see that Joker, I always want pizza, because I'm like, his face looks like pizza.
Cheese,
yeah. Anthony Blackwell rules. That's from Alex Barbaro.
Thank you, man. Make sure you subscribe and follow these guys.
Yeah, thank you very much. That would be mucho appreciated.
But yeah, then I went to the digital route and I started reading things digitally because I didn't really know where to get comic books. And then I finally just like pulled the trigger and I asked Andy and Tim, like, where do you go? And they took this place in Schuylkill Haven, and my wife goes to this place. What's it called?
Alchemist Cove.
No, the shop next to it.
The shop next door.
Yeah, the shop next door to Alchemist Cove. She goes in and buys like
that's a great name for a shop
and like fun cool things. Queen Bee or something. It's like it's essentially like all small business who can't afford to have their own shop fronts go to this business, and they set up little stands where they can sell their local products. So she went in there, and I looked next door. I'm like, that's the comic book store. So I finally went in, and man, it was a cool experience, man. I loved it, and I was like, I need to come back here more. And it was fun going in there with Heidi. Unfortunately, being an artist and trying to make a living off my art, money's not easy right now. But going in there, we were both kind of like going around like, oh, we would definitely get into read, because she reads books all the time. She's a huge reader. And she's a huge horror movie person too. So she was in the horror section looking through all the books like, oh man, I can get Stephen King's son's comic books, and they have comic books based on my favorite horror movies. So she was really into that. And I was looking through a bunch, and I was like, this is cool. And it sparked that interest, but it's something that we definitely want to go back to and pick up again. But I think the last book I read, and I didn't finish it. So I hope don't spoil it on me, but The Last Ronin, I was really into that.
Oh yeah. No, you need to finish that.
Was it 4 or 5? There's 5 of them. I think I got up to number 4. Yeah.
From one Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fan to another, like I don't know if I could recommend like a current TMNT series more than The Last Ronin. There's like another part coming on that's called the Lost Years.
Yeah.
I think that comes out in a couple months.
I nailed it.
And it'll come out for the next 7 years, like The Last Ronin did.
Yeah.
Well, and it's also, I believe it was the original creative team that wrote The Last Ronin.
Yes, we are comic book guys. Sorry, I wanted to squeeze that in real quick.
And figure.
Alex asked again, are we comic book and figure guys? I see some
Well,
Black series.
If she's talking about these aren't Black series. These are the retro collection. These are kind of the new ones of Star Wars that have been coming out. I've been collecting these.
Look at you at knowing what that was. I was confused on that. I thought that, wow, you are a figure guy. I was going to say we were.
And I see Black. I just thought that would put it together.
Yeah, Black series is oh wait, hang on.
Oh, Mark's gone.
Yeah. When I first started reading it, I nailed who the turtle was going to be. Like I already kind of scouted it out, like figured it out as I went. But I love the turtles, but I am a huge Casey Jones fan. Like that's my character. Like anytime he's showcased or talked about or in a book, I'm in. That's my favorite character.
I would like to see like an origin series for him.
But or just even like something. I mean, I don't know if he's in The Last Ronin because I didn't read it, but it'd be cool to see like what he was doing, or I don't know. Again, I didn't read it, so I don't know.
I don't want to say anything. I don't want to give anything away.
Yeah, because I would kind of like to read that because I've heard such good things about it.
Yeah, so if you're watching this for the first time or you don't have no idea what we're talking about, The Last Ronin is essentially it's a futuristic turtles comic book line where all of the turtles are dead and there's only one left, and he's going to avenge and take down a crime syndicate that may or may not be Shredder.
As you're saying that, I just hear like the TMNT, the television show theme playing in my head while you're like, this serious thing is happening.
It's not kiddie at all. This is definitely more adult geared and themed. And it's absolutely excellent. Like essentially this is almost like Arkham, where the entire city it's almost like Ninja Turtles meets Gotham, where like there's different layers to the city, and the poor are kind of being held down by this crime syndicate who own everything, and everyone's super policed and you can't do anything, and it's like super dictatorship, and it's crazy. And then this turtle ends up finding like a resistance, and then they're kind of like balancing to try to take down the government. Essentially, it's really, really good.
It's definitely a 5 out of 5 for me. That series was
definitely read it.
I've going back to Black series. I thought I had a Black series figure on hand, but I don't. This is just a Marvel Legends. But Black series typically come in packaging like this, and it'll say Black series on it. And I don't know if Marvel has Black series. I know Star Wars does, but maybe
what makes it a Black series?
The box.
I think it's just the box. They're a little larger size action figure. But these are the ones like I think collectors really go after. I think like these ones are like $25 a pop, the Black series. And
the old X-Men figures back in the day were awesome. Like,
oh my god,
I remember being a kid, like a 90s kid and the 2000s kid, and those X-Men figures.
Like this one?
Yes, they were so
this
cool. Yeah. Then they had the larger scale ones. Everyone had the Sabretooth and Wolverine, like from the animated series. They were like monsters, bro. And then another series I was reading for a little bit, and I got like maybe a couple issues in, and I was really enjoying it. I just lost track and stopped reading it. I don't know where it lies in the new age of it, but the Daredevil series. I love Daredevil as well. And then I read that Harley Quinn.
Well, hold on. What do you remember what the story was about in Daredevil? Because was it recent?
It was
how
so
recent
long
was it?
ago. Maybe right when the last Ronin first dropped. I would say around that time.
Okay, so that might have been.
Alex let us know what the Black Series technically is. It's a 6-inch figure with Elite Effects head sculpts,
a bunch of
accessories. Which
look at that.
Yeah,
now we know.
But yeah, that Daredevil series, and then I started reading the Harley Quinn series, where it was kind of like how she became Harley because Joker was mind manipulating her. It was like a really adult themed, and the cover was like half Harley's face.
Yeah,
well,
what you're talking about.
That's one thing too about DC that I feel like transitioned from the 90s, because I remember in the 90s, like Marvel was the more adult, like suggestive comic books, and DC was a little bit more like tame and didn't try to like make things as suggestive. But then there was a turn, and I don't know if it happened before the New 52. It probably did, but there was still dark DC comics. But yeah, you can find some really good ones. But was it just called Harley Quinn?
I think it was called Harlan.
Okay, that makes sense, because that's
it wasn't like a long series. It was only a couple shots, but it was really, really good. Actually, during the New 52 too, I think I read a lot of Justice League as well. I liked the Justice League New 52.
I read that Justice League, and just to say, I think that that was a great story. I think that story itself has been used a lot of times, and maybe not the best ways, but that story itself is a damn good story. That's Jeff Johns.
Yeah, and he puts on the Hellbat suit,
and he's the guy who gave Joker a name. I'm pretty sure, because I was reading the article, and I'm just like, yeah, Jeff Johns would be the guy that thinks he can give the Joker a name. Yeah, but we need to get back to that, because we didn't finish having that discussion. I would like to know what you guys think about that. But first, Alex says, "Sorry guys, I'm a nerd. I think Blackwell just put me on to my new favorite dudes."
Good, man.
We're nerds here too. So you're always welcome. We'd love to have you every week.
Which normally, Alex, just so you know, we normally air on Wednesdays.
Yeah. That's comic book day. So we do it on comic book day. But so what do you guys think about the Joker's name thing?
I don't think it's gonna last. I think it's one of those things where someone makes a story and then they're just like, "That's not canon. He went rogue." You know what I mean? Yeah. Everything is a what if, because they're afraid to lose the integrity or change a character.
Yeah. No,
I'm not they're like, okay, then it counts. 10 years later.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. Mark, what do you think?
I don't know. It takes away a lot of like the mystery of the Joker for me, giving him 100%. A name. Like I don't want to slap a label on him. I want him just to be what he's always been, the Joker who has like no backstory. Like what we do know of his background is still even just so murky. And like that's the other thing too I love about like the Joker, when they do reference like his life before, it's always told in black and white.
Mm.
And that was
the cool part about the Joker, is where you don't know if he's telling you the truth or not, because he's just a narcissist. Like the Joker movie, I remember watching that for the first time, and everyone's like, "Oh, that was really good," and I was like, "That movie just happened though?" And they're like, "What do you mean?" And I was like, he could have been lying the whole time. He was using his therapist to tell her a sob story to get people to follow him. But how much of that movie actually happened, and how much of it was Joker's head, or how much was Joker completely lying to his therapist? And then someone was like, you just made me rethink. Like you Fight Club that movie for me, where you don't know what was reality and what was the Joker's mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, did he really want a TV show and shoot somebody, or was that just him telling a story?
Yeah, that's a good point.
It is a very good point. But let's do Alex one for him and answer this debate. He says he's a debate guy. So what's a better Joker book, Death in the Family or The Killing Joke?
Oh man.
Now, I'm biased because I haven't read Death in the Family because I'm a bad comic book boy. But I have read The Killing Joke. and my money is on The Killing Joke. Even though I'm sure Death in the Family is probably very good because it is a classic story. That's correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the one where the spoiler for a comic that's been out for a very long time. But that's the one where Joker kills Robin, right? Tim Drake Robin.
The Tim Drake, yeah.
Have either of you read it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Wow. Well, then I'm the odd man out on this one. You guys can have you read The Killing Joke?
Yeah, I think.
Okay. Well, there we go. You guys have the debate. I'll sit here and say Killing Joke. Yay!
I'm kind of leaning Killing Joke as well.
Yeah.
Only because the
Jason Todd. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
My God. You can come on and host the show. I'm retiring. Yeah. You can come on, Alex.
Fans voted to kill Jason Todd essentially, and the comic book was really, really good. If you want to go into animation movies, Killing Joke was better than. Death in the Family was better than Killing Joke because the Killing Joke added a whole story that didn't need to be there.
Yeah.
It was really
I don't often enjoy when DC does a direct to like let's turn this series into a show or a movie. I'm not ever really a huge fan, but I don't know, like
the first half of Killing Joke animation, and then just go to the
fast forward until you see the first frame.
Yeah, once you stop seeing Batman and Batgirl having
Batgirl
having sex on the top of a building in the rain, and skip all that, and then go to the actual comic, and it was really good. But yeah, I think when it comes to like where we are history wise, Death in the Family gave us Red Hood, and that's all cool. But I think Killing Joke definitely gave us the origin of Oracle. It gave us why she's the way she is, the Joker, where he like that whole thing. Batman, does he commit his first murder or not? Like, there's always that what if at the end. Yeah, I think I'd go Killing Joke.
Yeah, I think Killing Joke is a better story, hands down. But I will say Death in the Family made a really big impact because it was like, maybe Alex knows this better, but Jason Todd is the third Robin, or is he the second?
I think he's the second.
I think he's
because he was the more unpopular one, and that's why. Because
at that point he became he became Nightwing already, and then the second one came over.
He becomes the Red Hood. So
Jason Todd becomes Red Hood, but his predecessor's already, I believe at that point in time, he's already Nightwing, and then the third Robin becomes later on Red Robin, which is, I hate that version.
Red Robin.
We're running out of birds.
I'm biased, but I maybe because I would say the Killing Joke book fan, but I love me some Damian.
Yeah, Damian's awesome. Like, he's introduced the New 52, right?
Carrie doesn't count. Come on, she got one book.
she did. She got one.
Alex says second Robin. Tim Drake is third, and then Carrie Kelly is technically the fourth if you count Dark Knight Returns. Which no, because that's not even canon, is it?
No.
But now we just sound like a bunch of like sexist males. Like, she can be a great Robin.
She just doesn't count.
She did a good job for
her one book.
Her one book, yeah.
Mark, so not to just kind of swing into something different, but let's swing into something a little bit different. Do you want to talk about that Minor Threats comic that you read?
Yeah, I'm going to keep this short because Minor Threats is really good. I'll say that much. Our buddy too on Instagram, Cancel Comics, he wrote a really good review on it. So I suggest anybody go and read what he has to say. But this is a story of like D-list villains who all hang out at like the same bar, and then like essentially like the Justice League. That's kind of related. There's like the version of Batman and this version of the Justice League. And sorry, who put this out? This is Dark Horse. And it's kind of the same thing as Death in the Family. Like, the Robin character is killed by this A-list villain, and now the Justice League is going around and like questioning all of the villains, but these D-list villains don't want to have to deal with these A-list superheroes. So like, why don't we just go hunt him down? And like that's issue 1.
Oh, that's a good premise.
Yeah, and my favorite thing about it is that it's written by Patton Oswalt.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, he's this.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah, I think I mentioned this.
Yeah.
And I think that this is his first comic book, and I think he co-wrote it, but I think that he is the one who had like the vision for it, and so I really enjoyed it. I'm very excited for the next one to come out. I think it's 4 issues. I don't think they're doing 5 for it.
Okay, yeah, because his MODOK run was only 4, and that was pretty enjoyable.
Was that a comic or was that a show?
It was a comic. He did a comic. I used to have it on my wall. Yeah, I took it down.
Okay.
But yeah, he did a 4-issue run.
I just like when a celebrity from a different medium and they decide to jump into comic books. Like Keanu Reeves did it with gosh, they're not coming to me. Berserker.
Okay,
and then Mother of Madness. That was one that or did I just read that?
I bought it. I bought issue number 1, but I never read it.
Yeah, and that was by everybody's favorite Game of Thrones character, Amelia Clark.
Right, yeah. Anthony, have you read Berserk?
I have not.
I feel like you would really enjoy
I think
that.
the most recent book I bought, and I think I have 2 issues of it. Andy actually has it. He put an extra one in his box, so I can get it off him. I haven't read them yet, though, but I've been getting the Elvira books, where Elvira has been traveling in between different horror movies and changing the outcomes.
Right.
Oh.
So the first issue, she goes into Psycho, and she saves what's her name from being killed by Norman, and eventually fights Norman. And then the second issue, I believe she's in, I think Alien or something. I forget what the second. No, The Shining. She goes to The Shining. The Shining is the second issue. Yeah. So that's a really fun comic. I like to me, Elvira comics are like Archie comics, where you can just put Elvira in any situation and I'll read it.
Yeah. I feel like that's that character definitely works for that.
Yeah, she's amazing.
And she's been around for forever.
Yeah.
Where's her origin? Like, I'm gonna look that up. I'm curious how long she's been around.
It's a long time. So she essentially was kind of like a Joe Bob Briggs, where she was like a horror host, and then she started getting her own movies, and she was way ahead of her time. Where like guys are catcalling her,
That's
and she was like, she was like, she used her sexuality, but she wasn't a sexual person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like everything was on her terms. It was very woman empowering, and she was very LGBT. Like I think she just recently came out as being in a relationship with a woman, and not really telling people a lot about that because she kept a lot of that stuff to herself. But she's an icon. She's one of the greatest people that ever lived. That's my Betty White is Elvira.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I want to give a shout out to a comic that I talked about this a while ago. It's a Comixology exclusive. It's called Cold Iron. And it is by Andy Diggle, Nick Brokenshire, and then I got a bunch of other people, Tierra Farrell, Simon Bowland, and Tom Mueller. That whole team came together to make like I said, a Comixology exclusive. And I talked about issue 1 and 2 a while back. The premise is it's based off of a Irish. I hope it's Irish and not Scottish. I'm gonna feel so stupid if I read like this whole thing and then it's.
For how many names we butcher on this show, you're fine.
No, actually, it is Irish. Now that I'm remembering, yeah. So it is Irish. It's a folklore that, for good luck, you hang an iron in your house, or not an iron. Well, it can be an iron, but it's like cold iron, as in like cold metal. You want to leave cold metal in the house. Apparently, that it's a good luck thing. And in this comic, it's centered around Irish folklore and a girl that kind of traverses the worlds between ours and that, and it's just a really fun story. The way that it ended makes me feel like there's going to be more. There was only 4 issues, and like I said, it's on Comixology, so if you're looking for just a fun, simple comic, I think the art's fantastic, the story's really good. Would definitely recommend checking that out.
I've read 16% of issue 1.
There you go. Wow, that would be
You recommended it to me a while back, and like
Right.
I started reading it, and I think I fell asleep that night reading it, which happens.
That would make sense.
But then I'm also, I think I'm now 30 comic books behind. Which
What is the Marvel one? Marvel Unlimited, or not? The video game, or no? That's the app. That's the app.
Yeah, Marvel Unlimited. I think it's like $8 a month, or you can pay $70 for the year. But the comics come out. Comics come out 3 months after their initial release date on there. That's how Tim's been catching up on all like the Star Wars comics and.
Well, I use Comixology, but yeah, because I think they come out around the same time, if not probably a little later. I would assume. I don't really know, but here's a question for us from Alex again. Thank you for giving us all the context tonight, Alex. Are you guys Walking Dead fans?
Love the comic, hate the show.
Oh, that's the perfect answer. Mark, what do you got to say?
So I read Alex's question a little bit before you brought it up, and I think when that show started, I think you and I were living in Taiwan still.
Yeah, I believe so.
And so I just I never got into it, and then I also don't like being surrounded by a lot of hype. And so when I came back to the States and everybody was just talking about oh, Walking Dead's the greatest thing ever, it's the best, blah, blah, and and people I don't like when people impress on me that it's something I have to do. I guess that's what I'm more getting to. And so I just never watched the show. I've read I think the first volume of the comics, which I really enjoyed. I think my brother has all of those.
The comic was great.
Yeah.
How much of the comic did you read, Anthony?
I got all the way up until I think the issue 100, which was volume 3 or 4. Unfortunately, here's my problem: is when I got to the point where I was current with the issues in real life, and the TV show was still a thing, and people were raving about it, and I was in the team. You should read the book camp, not minus what's on TV. And then the creator himself was kind of like, I'm torn on which one I want to put my focus on. Kind of like Game of Thrones, where the guy was like, am I writing in the books or am I? And he was kind of stuck in that thing. And then he was trying to implement he was trying to implement show to the book instead of doing this book to the show. And I was like, I'm done. I'm out of here. I love Norman Reedus as a person, but he ruined the show for me. They took characters who were so good in the books. Yeah, they took characters that were so good in the books, and they just didn't translate to the show at all.
Yeah. Well, I think the problem with that was that they deviated from the show characteristics of the people pretty early on, maybe even just fundamentally.
Because Norman became so big, they turned around and said, okay, this story is clearly about Rick. How do we write the story of Rick? But then how would Daryl, who wasn't in the comic, react to what Rick would read? So they was kind of basing it around the highest paid guy in the show and the character who got popular, and not stuck to that. I don't know. Just trying to think of a way to say it without sounding stupid, but that's kind of where it was at. It just kind of got away from me, and I just didn't like it.
Yeah. So I can't remember where I jumped off. I know that because I would remember being in Taiwan doing this, but I would I would think I would read the Wikipedia page of how they have that fan Wikipedia thing.
Yeah.
I would read I would wait a couple months, and then I would go onto the fandom or whatever, and I would just read the synopsis that way. I did that with a lot of comic books. Honestly, I just when I first got into comics, I would just sit on Wikipedia and just read Wolverine's history, because it's so that in and of itself is a comic book, it's just the wildest thing that you could be oh, all this stuff happened to a man in his lifetime. That's insane.
And they're like, but this also happened, but we don't know if that's what they're going with. And there's 5 origin stories.
Wolverine's just always been in the wrong place at the wrong time.
How about Wolverine being hinted at in She-Hulk? Did you see that?
Yeah. Oh, wait, the new one?
Yeah.
No.
I saw
2 episodes ago, I think it was.
Yeah.
It was in the newspaper. Yeah. And
I've been loving that show. It's so good.
Let's talk about that, because people are hating it, and
because they're men who don't like strong women protagonists. That's exactly what it comes down to. Because if you read the She-Hulk comic, you're getting exactly what happens in the comic on the show.
Oh yeah. No, I think it's brilliant on every way.
And the girl who's playing her is so good.
So good.
She seems like she's
really awesome to look at too. Especially on She-Hulk.
There you go.
Especially on She-Hulk.
I feel like she's doing a really good job at not taking. I feel like the She-Hulk character is very good at being like not taking things too seriously, and I feel like even the actress does a really good job of like coming across like that. And I mean, she's an actress, so I don't know how genuine that is, but it feels very just like, yeah, we're just filming this thing, you know.
Brian said she was on a show before this, and she played like a multiple personality, or she did something along those lines, or she played like two characters that interacted with each other at the same time. And he said she's absolutely fantastic as an actress. And then when he told me that, and I looked into her, I was like, I'm pumped for this show, and it hasn't let me down yet. It's funny. The only thing is, I wish they were maybe a little longer.
Yeah,
because like a half hour, you're like, oh, it's already over. Like, and I wasn't expecting it to be so focused on a courtroom case. Like it like I thought it would be more like a different approach of what it was going to be, and I was like, no, this is good. This is exactly what I wanted it to be, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I guess I think well, this maybe just goes into larger critiques of like the MCU as a whole, but I feel like I'm happy. I guess what am I trying to say? Say what you're saying. I feel like the MCU is very much at this point where a lot of the content that is currently out is very much just focused on like, look how great the MCU is. And I'm
going to counter you.
Okay, let's count. Well, my argument would be like, I think Miss Marvel, her whole character is very much admiring the whatchamacallit, the Avengers and superheroes. So she's allowed to do that. But I think Doctor Strange, everything from Doctor Strange, No Way Home, a little bit of Hawkeye, like so much of this stuff is just like, look how good the MCU is. And it's not like just producing new quality, good stories. I mean, it is, but like I feel like, and maybe this is just an impossible thing, but they don't seem to be having the impact or weight of like these old stories. And maybe it's because we're just spoiled for choice at the moment.
We are, but like,
I would counter this as well.
It's also that like, okay, we had 3 phases of the exact same genre. Okay. 3 phases. Everything that phase 4 has put out is a different genre. So there you have that. For 2, we're talking multiverse. So we're talking multiverse in different points of view, different aspects of like, where Loki was at. I loved Loki, just different versions of him. But it's also like having these different genres like speaks into the multiversal aspect of what's going on. And also like, Kevin Feige, he knows that he can't just keep going with this same, there's always an idiom and I can't think of it, but just like he can't keep doing the same bread and butter, I guess, let's do phase 1, 2, and 3. Thank you, Tim.
Yeah, I'm a poet.
Yes, you are.
And I agree with that. And I think that's a really good point, but I don't think that's well, okay, finish your point.
But yeah, so it's just for me, it's just like I just don't think people understand like what the MCU is doing because they haven't really come out and said like this is what we're doing. These are the shows we're putting out, but this is how they haven't really like pointed out like this is the angle that we're taking. And I think that them having all these different versions, because yes, She-Hulk is a courtroom, it is a Law and Order type show that has a lot of good humor in it that honestly makes fun of everything that the MCU has already done. And like that's one of the reasons I like She-Hulk. Like Tim, you liked Hawkeye, didn't you?
Yeah,
like,
I enjoyed it.
A lot of people didn't like that show either, and like that show is also, it was brilliant because it's also more of like kind of a detective like
it was much more grounded than like a lot of other things that we've gotten. Anthony, what are you gonna say?
For me, the phase 1 was cool. Phase 2 was cool. Phase 3 was all right. Like for me, I felt like it was always like how he said it was the same genre, and they all just ran into each other, and that's fine. And I think it held the audience's hand a lot. So it was like, oh, this is what's coming, and sequence leads to the next one, and everyone just expect these end sequences of everything to be the next big reveal, the next big surprise. And then WandaVision came out and it changed the game. And everybody was fantasy booking, and everyone was like, this is what I think is going to happen. And then they're like, no, you were all wrong. And then it just goes. And ever since then, it has the fans. They're all saying it's the worst phase ever because they can't pinpoint what's going to happen next. And I love it. I think this series has been great. Doctor Strange was essentially, I mean, look at, I love me some Sam Raimi. It was a horror movie. It was so good.
So good.
Yeah, and the thing is too is it's taking these characters and it's zooming them out a little bit. So in the first 3 phases, every hero was a superhero. But now we're at a phase 2 where some people are different levels of superhero, right? So what you're essentially setting up in this phase is you have a galactic side of things, you have a main side of things where your main team, the Avengers, were the big, huge gods of Earth, and they're still there. But now you have these street level heroes who aren't going to go and save the world from a galactic threat. They just take care of street level crimes, and that's where your Daredevils, that's where your Blade, like these other characters. So there's different. They're actually setting up tiers of what every hero's role is in the MCU, and I think it's great. Like She-Hulk is big enough to take down the world, but she's just kind of doing her, like she's not at that level yet. And you have all these different characters who are kind of structuring their own little set of teams where you're like, oh well, what's happening here? And then we're getting to a point where if X-Men come or Fantastic Four come or this person comes, it's all then big picture. But then you have these nice little side branches, and each character fits in their own bubble, but still have it. Like I love it. I think what they're doing is great. I love this phase.
And if we also put it in terms of comic books, I'm getting a little feedback for myself. I don't know if that's on my end, but anyways, we put it in terms of comic books, and we've talked about this before, but it's just like we had an All Rise too with phase 1, 2, and 3. Like they were very exciting. Like, you know, Thor Ragnarok's my favorite MCU movie. Like but I also have an attachment to Thor.
I love Black Panther.
Yeah. But like there was All Rise, and like we've talked about so much with comic books, how like a lot of times issue 4 is the main dip. And usually that is because they're trying to reset for something bigger that's going to happen in the final issue of, you know, issue 5 or whatever. We already know that MCU is going to phase 6, and apparently they're going to reveal a lot of that this weekend. But yeah, phase 5 is already lining up to look really, really good. And it's going to, you know, if we put it on a chart.
When I seen Civil War and didn't get Civil War, I was pissed. I'm not going to lie. And we're getting
that's very fair.
And now we're getting Secret Wars, and it's like they can do it. They have all the rights to these characters. We can get the most real, like the accurate screen version of Secret Wars, which is a great story. Like we're getting Black Symbiote suit Spider-Man. We're getting, you know, like there's so many cool things that can set up. I'm pumped, man. I think this is like the best time to be a Marvel fan, because realistically, the first couple of phases, they were making movies with characters that they only had the rights to. And Iron Man wasn't a top-selling comic book. They can barely get, like, Captain America was popular, but his books weren't the greatest. They were Hulk was their main thing, but they couldn't use him heavily. They made Thor out of a no-name actor and made him the biggest person in the world. And then they built to what they had and made something good. Yeah. They made something good out of characters that people didn't really respond to. And now they have the rights to the characters everybody wanted if they had them in the first place. And now it's getting exciting. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Well, and I just personally, I trust Kevin Feige and what he's doing with the MCU. Like, he hasn't let me down. Tim, will you bring up Alex's next question?
Yeah, I think that's a good
First
segue.
Off, did anyone cry watching the trailer? Because I almost did.
For this, almost certainly. So Alex says, like, what's going to happen in Wakanda forever? Since the multiverse has been open, is Killmonger coming back? I don't know. I'm in two heads about it, because I really like that character, but you know, I would love. I remember seeing this comment one time. There was a tweet or something like that about how they were in favor of just recasting T'Challa and not having him die in the universe and just having, you know, somebody else carry it on. And I really like that idea, because I'm fine with either way, but I really like that they were like, no, the idea of the Black Panther is more, it transcends kind of just this one person. And obviously that wasn't up to me to make that decision. I'm not trying to make light of obviously real world tragedies or anything like that. But yeah, I think I would have liked, and so I don't necessarily want to see Killmonger come back and then them have to kind of finagle his story to him being like an anti-hero or a hero of some sort. I'd rather see them have just another note, like a no-name actor that Chadwick Boseman kind of really was before coming into this, and just have them take on this icon of Black Panther and, you know, again, rise up and be the center, just be a very good symbol of what that is. But that's my humble opinion.
It's a great take, but the real Black Panther, he earned it fair and square. He beat Chad in the pit. He earned that title. He didn't do very good things with it, but it's his title. So in the trailer, obviously, you see land versus sea battling.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody goes down into the sea for some reason. Somebody wanted to be buried at sea. Just putting it out there, which was Killmonger. They're teasing who can take the mantle. You see Ironheart, which really want her as a character. There's two characters I want in the MCU. I want Ironheart and I want Miles Morales. Please make that happen.
Yes.
And then it leads to this team, like an FBI, like a SWAT team with guns who come in and raid Wakanda. And what would they raid in Wakanda? Which is 100% be vibranium, right? That's what they would want. So that opens up doors of maybe an old comic book arc where Dr. Doom sent a team to Wakanda to extract vibranium. So is this the beginning of maybe the end sequences? That team was led by Doom, and that's how we get Doom in the MCU, because he's been teased a whole bunch of times. So there's a lot of open things that can happen in this movie, and I'm so excited for it. And I think the cool thing with it too that they're playing off is obviously Wakanda is Black culture, and it's beautiful and it's thing, and then they're kind of leaning with the Latino culture with the under the water, like Namor is being portrayed by a Latino character. So we getting like a rise of two different. We've been getting a strong Asian culture with Shang-Chi and a lot of that. So it's kind of cool that we're seeing all these different cultures being represented in the MCU. And I know people are like, well, that's woke and I hate it, but it's beautiful representation for people just to not only see strong white male protagonists all the time. You're seeing LGBTQ being represented. You see Black culture, you see Spanish culture, Asian culture. Dude, like I said, I was not a Marvel guy. Phase 4 has me sold, man. I think it's so important for just pop culture, and it's so important for culture in general, and everyone can find something to have a representation in it. I think it's beautiful.
That's a great take.
That's awesome.
Well, geez, I don't know if I can say anything better than that.
I know. I feel like I honestly think that's kind of a great place to end it.
Yeah, Anthony, thank you so much for coming on, my dear friend.
Dude, I loved it. It was a blast. Next time I will read comic books and come more prepared.
We'll definitely have you back on.
I'll just say we did spring this on you. I asked you, I saw you out in the street like less than 2 weeks ago, and I was like, hey, you want to come on the podcast?
On my way to Jersey.
Yeah. And yeah, so you're so great at all this stuff. Being able to jump on and just, I know you're so down. You're a great content creator. So if you're here and you don't know who Anthony is, I would be very surprised. But if you
we had a lot of Anthony fans.
Appreciate you guys coming in. Anyone who came in, please support these guys. They I didn't have a lot of people who really represented really supported what I did, as well as these guys did, as well as like the Welcome Back crew and everybody else who was part of the network who was putting content out for the network, and it wasn't even my content. It was somebody else who had our vision of what the network was going to be, and they did a very good job. And it sucks to see it go, man, but I'm very proud of what these guys accomplished, and please continue to follow them and support them and show love to Pullbox Pals.
Thanks so much, buddy. You are the first official third pal.
I love that. I love that title. I'll wear it with honor, and I will start spending money. I have a lot, so it's gonna free up a lot of time for me, and it's gonna be one of the best things that I can do for myself, that I can make my brand and live life again. Because for 4 years, Tim, man, everyone's like, hey, I want you to come out and hang out, or I have something going on. I'm like, oh man, I'm something podcast related. And I think opening up that is going to help me out mentally, physically, and be able to still make great content, but have more time to myself too. I can sit down and enjoy a video game and a comic book, because for 4 years, it was very hard to do so.
Yeah. And Alex sums it up very well by saying Anthony Blackwell is one of the best dudes I know. His knowledge surpasses Socrates himself.
Wow.
I believe that's true. Why not? Let's just say that. But yeah, you're a great dude. For those of you who don't know, Anthony is going off and kind of just doing his own solo stuff and just going to be a solid content creator. He does a lot of wrestling reviews, beer reviews, movie reviews. His wife helps him out with that. So we have a link tree in our description where you can go and check out everything that he is linked to, because that's how that thing works.
Just search my name, Anthony Blackwell Jr. You'll find it.
You'll find it. Go to Google, type it in Google and see what happens. You guys Google your names ever? Be honest.
Oh boy, I probably should have did that first, huh? I never got caught. Good.
Yeah, I Google my name. Well, okay.
I think I Googled my name one time and there was just like a website like markdillon.com, and I think it was a lawyer. nothing exciting. Nothing too exciting.
I mean, when I go by Timey, Timy, it's a lot easier to there's not a whole lot of timey mangles out there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a 3 first namer, so it doesn't get too exciting. It's just Mark Allen Dillon.
I just realized that about your handle, Mad, is
that's why
your
it's Mad
initials.
Nerdy. Yeah.
I for the longest time, and I think even still, have you as Mark Ace Dillon in my phone.
Yeah.
Because I've always just joked with you that your middle name is Ace, and I don't remember what it. I want to say Andrew.
I just said it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't listening. I was thinking about telling my favorite thing about you.
Alan.
That is a first name.
Yeah.
What's your middle name, Anthony?
Steven.
Mine's Earl. Mine's probably the lamest out of all.
Great name.
Yeah, Timothy Earl.
I like Earl.
Thank you.
If I can just close out one thing here too, don't be like me. Obviously, when it comes to the comic book world, seek out, find your local comic book shops. I've been in this area for so long and prided myself on knowing my community and talking about the gems in our area, and didn't know our comic book shop. So seek it out. Even if it's a 25-30-minute drive, find your local comic book shop and go support them, and support your independent comics and stuff like that. Just find your niche, whether it be wrestling, beer, like what I'm into. I'm in a bit of everything, but there's such a local presence when it comes to anything that you're into. Seek it out, find it, support it, and help it grow.
Hell yeah.
Amen. All right, let's end on that. You're just keep on sending out bangers. So good job. Friends, make sure that you like wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening to. Just make sure that you subscribe. It really helps us in all of this. Anthony, again, thank you so much. And friends, we will be back next week on a Wednesday. So it's only 6 days you got to wait until. And Mark, you have to read 30 comics in the next 6 days. How do you feel about that?
I can do it.
You're not going to do it.
I'm not.
If you can do it, I'll Venmo you $5.
Okay.
That's not worth it.
Follow these guys and engage as another content creator. It helps to get engagement. You need people to
Anthony's doing a better job promoting than we are.
It's important. And now that you have people that are in here and they watched and they liked it, comment. Like, say, hey, I read this book or this book. Make that engagement on the social medias. Follow them.
We got more comments tonight than we ever have. So I appreciate everybody who did that. And
keep that train going.
Okay. Yeah, keep it going. But not now, because we're ending this.
Yeah, we're out of here.
All right. See you, friends.
Bye.
Oh, good.
Bye.